Hello, it's George again. If you fancy reading something absolutely childish that quite possibly may well be the most offensive thing you've ever read, then buy my best-selling book. You can also sign up for my Patreon for hundreds of hours of exclusive content and, of course, check out my own Funkyspectrum website for more videos. Links will be in the description, and like and subscribe here if you want to be kept up to date with all the nonsense on YouTube. Now, let's get to the video. Hello, it's George again, and well, this is actually, believe it or not, it's the third time I've reviewed this game. Now, when I was going through the files to upload to the YouTube channel, it's come back from the dead, like the phoenix rising from the ashes, a load of semen being ejaculated from a prolapsed arsehole into the hands of a willing 18-year-old girl, only to slurp it up as a nasty, gigantic 50-year-old man urinates up her back. I just thought, I'm not going to do this again. But then I thought, yeah, bloody well am, because the old videos, they go into how MAME's emulating these things and blah, blah, blah. This was one of the first ones I did when I discovered you could actually emulate these titles. This is a Game & Watch I actually own. I love this one. It's one of my favourites, but I'll get into it. I'll just talk while I'm doing it. We're going to do Game B because it's just a sort of better. Now, me and Thomas used to play this as a sort of a two-player game because one of you could obviously grip one side and one could grip the other. I actually had my version actually ended up getting snapped by a bully, which I was really upset about. I don't mind admitting I cried quite a lot about that. He also degassed the bike on the back wheel on Thomas's bike one time when Thomas was trying to get away from him. He just lifted up the bike like as Thomas was trying to pedal as well, so it's like his hand was getting kind of crushed as the wheel was sort of going forwards, but he just gripped into it and dug his nails in and sort of turned round. I remember he looked quite like Clubber Lang at that moment from the Rocky film. It just heard the big as the tyre gassed off, and Thomas was absolutely screaming in terror. It was really bad. He was a bad guy, that chap. I later found out he went to prison. He assaulted his wife, so there is some justice. I don't mean in terms of his wife getting assaulted. I don't know whether she deserved that or not. I presume she didn't. No one deserves to be assaulted. But yeah, he did go to jail, and hopefully he was battered by a series of men much bigger than he. But anyway, wonderful Game & Watch, this one. Lovely graphics. I think it's the first sort of left to right Game & Watch, the dual screen one, which was an interesting sort of concept at the time. I remember when I first got this, I was the talk of the town, wherein the town is sort of a 4x4 metre square area in the playground. But I absolutely loved it. Still do love it. I think it takes a bit of a time to pick up pace, but it's a lovely sort of relaxing game. It's one of those games that puts me very much in my happy place. Mario Brothers bottling up Christ alone knows what. I mean, God knows what it is they're actually bottling. It could be a lovely Christmas pop, it could be eggnog, or it could be SARS. Who knows? It could even be COVID vaccines, little ampoules of COVID vaccines. There they are, absolutely shagged out after a long bloody day's work. Bloody hell, nearly fell off the top. I was looking at the Jesus Christ. Oh, here we go. You useless bastard! Useless bastard! His boss isn't a Dalek, but that's always how I imagined him speaking. I was actually glancing over at the OBS screen to make sure it was recording there, because I'm playing this through headphones, and OBS is a bit weird because you've got to decide what different scenes to put on. Anyway, the intricacies of my recordings aside, a fantastic game. You can see there was to get... Hell, are we going to get it again? You useless bastard! Stupid bastard, heavily berated by their fucking bosses and probably have their arseholes absolutely tormented by the other people on the shift. I've heard, in fact, that a lot of the times in these factories there can be a sort of psychosexual hierarchy. Oh, bloody hell. That's the end of that. I'll just relay this story. Well, I'll play game A for a little bit. One of my mates was actually working for the, do you call it, like, it's not Parks and Rec in the UK, but council town Services, Council Grass and Woodlands or something like that. And he on his first day at work, it was pissing down with rain, and he said everyone was in like the van smoking marijuana, and he was really taken aback by that. He said, I'm not going out there. I'm going to stay in with all you guys because it was raining really hard. And the boss said, no, you're going to have to get out there. He's like, no chance. Why don't you go out there? And then he said the boss just basically punched him full force, full in the face, and then told him, get out there. He had a nosebleed and everything. And he had to go and he had to attach, he said, a lawnmower to a rope and sort of swing it backwards and forwards so he could cut the verge on like one of those tall bits that goes up the side, like an off ramp. Again, I don't know what they're called. I wish I could stop using this bloody American terminology. Too many American films, George. Too many viewings of Death Wish 3, on which there are not really any off-ramps, although Charles Bronson is on a bus at the start. But then it turns out, at my mate's work, I'm naming no names, so don't want to get him into trouble. But anyway, Chris told me that basically there was one day when he was like working outside, and they were all working, and there was a new start, and this guy was quite like sort of effeminate and stuff, and it turns out the boss actually took him into the van, and they all reckoned he was taking him for like to tell him what they were supposed to be doing that day, and he wound up getting raped. I just can't imagine what that would do to someone, let alone on their first day at work. It's like, is this what it's going to be like the whole bloody time? And we're going to have to be sodomolifgamaclated all day, or every time I come to work. I might rough myself up a bit. I might start eating full cheese pizzas every night so I become more fat and less attractive, perhaps like young Edward Furlong versus the horrendous visage of like 30-year-old crack-headed, meth-addled Edward Furlong. I'm not saying I will get off with Edward Furlong before you start posting in the comments, George Vince is Edward Furlong, but I do remember Claire had an absolutely massive thing for him. She had loads of smash hits posters like all on the wall and stuff like that, and I remember she used to kiss him sometimes at night on the picture, and I always dreamt, I thought about putting a small piece of shit or a widget on his lip so that she would end up kissing that, but then I decided against it because it was just too nasty. But anyway, that's the third time I've reviewed Mario Bros. Really good game. They're getting a row from the boss again. I bungled the numberings of the games earlier as well when I was uploading stuff because I didn't sort by release date in the catalogue, so it was a little bit of jiggery pokery when I was uploading stuff this morning, if any of you noticed that. But anyway, that's only pertinent for one day of the existence of humanity. So otherwise, really good game. I would recommend this. It's quite banal. It is quite banal, but as I said, it's one of my happy place games. Maybe if my mate Chris had that in the Bracknell Parks and Woodlands Department van, he would have been able to find his happy place as he was being punched directly in the face. Okay, bye.